Every now and then you will see a guy who's seemingly just a freak of nature, like he was absolutely built to play football. And Quinnen Williams is absolutely one of those guys, and I'll show you what I mean with this play. If you take a look, what Ole Miss's offensive line is going to do here is have 4 1-on-1 matchups right over there, and then they're going to have their center be in a zone blocking concept, but he's actually going to pull up to the top half of the screen, meaning that Williams is basically going to have a 1-on-1 block on this play. Oftentimes, if you're an interior lineman, it's all about power. It's all about basically just trying to overpower the guard or center that you're going up against, and basically trying to not get moved in case it is a running play. However, take a look at Williams here. He's actually going to cut over that guard. He basically gets his right hand over that guard's right side of his body, and now he's completely free. It was that quick. You look, not everyone on the field has even taken a step yet, and Williams has already won his matchup. Now, in fairness, you do have to give credit to Ole Miss's left guard in this play, as he was able to come back. After he got beat, and he definitely did get beat, he was still able to push Williams sort of out of the way and allow his quarterback to run up and pick up a few yards. It's very easy to happen too often with an interior lineman. It happens a lot more with an edge rusher. However, it did play out here, and the guard was able to come back, but it's worth mentioning that this pretty much completely disrupted the play. Williams didn't get a tackle or a sack out of it, but he made the quarterback have to do something completely different than what he was initially trying to do. They gained 3 yards, and really that was best case scenario for Ole Miss. Really, that's what I like about Williams probably the best, is his footwork. He has great footwork for an interior lineman. It's really something you don't see too often, but it really is impressive with him. And not just that, but he has great hands as well, and that's pretty much everything you need. Like on this play, for example, what Alabama is actually going to do is have one of their edge rushers drop back in the coverage, meaning it's going to be just a 3-man rush. Because of that, this is actually going to create a double team on the interior lineman on the top half of the screen, and there is also a design double team on the bottom half of the screen, and this now means that Williams is going one-on-one against the center, which is obviously a great situation for Williams. One thing I love about this is look at how quickly he gets up. I mean, I actually had to slow this play down a bit to make sure he didn't jump off sides, and he didn't. He just got off so quickly. On this still image, you can clearly tell that the only 2 guys who are ready right now are the center and Williams. Williams is literally getting up as quickly as the guy who actually had the ball in the first place. You're also going to see him do a quick swim move where, again, he puts his right arm over that right side of the center's body, and now he's in great position to try to make a play. Now again, because it's just a 3-man rush, and because Ole Miss did have a tight end blocking on this play, this now did mean that another right guard was able to look over and realize that Quinnen Williams was now getting free and was able to quickly go over and block him. That was actually a really heads-up play by that guard, but it's worth mentioning that this was a great job by Williams. I mean, it's only a 3-man rush, so you need to generate some pressure. However, because of this, he was able to generate some pressure. The whole idea of the 3-man rush is that you can still generate enough pressure that it makes it worth having an extra guy back in coverage. And Williams was able to help Alabama generate pressure here, and while there was a receiver who ended up getting open, in theory that play worked, at least in terms of the interior lineman. This play is another very interesting one. If you take a look, Ole Miss is actually paying Williams extra attention. They have 4 1-on-1 blocks, but if you notice, the one man who they have in his zone blocking concept is the left guard who's lined up with Williams. It makes a lot of sense when you're going up against a great interior lineman, pay him the extra attention. So that's what they're doing here. They also could have had their center be the one who's having a zone blocking concept, but they decided to go up their left guard here, and it's pretty much the same effect. But what's interesting is take a look at what happens here. As of right now, it looks like it's going to be a double team pretty easily. I mean, it seems like Williams is just going to run right there, which means both the center and left guard would simply just swarm around him and make a block. However, what he's going to do instead is run in that direction. Because he faked as though he was going one way and had the footwork to get over to the other direction, this is now great news for Alabama, as if you take a look, the right hand of that center is pretty much on Williams' center of his body. It's on his chest, basically, which is just not great hand placement at all. You really would want to have the hand all the way over to the shoulder pad, but there's just no way you can get it over there in this situation. Williams runs through, and honestly might have been able to get a sack if it wasn't for holding on that play. This play is going to be another interesting play by Williams. If you take a look at what's going to happen here, is there's going to be 1-on-1 blocks all across the board in terms of their offensive linemen, and they're going to pull a man in motion over to block the edge rusher right over there, and they're also going to send their 2 other players on the edge to try to block off that edge, and then it could be an easy run to that side of the screen. But of course, the problem with a play like this is it's all 1-on-1 matchups across the board. In theory, if everyone makes their blocks, it could be a great play. However, of course, the problem with this is now everyone has to make their blocks, and they're all 1-on-1 block. And when Alabama has a guy like Williams, it makes it very difficult to run these types of plays. He's a matchup nightmare, especially when going up against the center, and take a look at what's going to happen here. Basically, all Williams is going to do is put his left hand on that right side of the center's body. This does 2 things. For one thing, it kind of takes away that center's right hand, which is definitely very important. But the other thing, it's going to help push that center to the left side of the screen. And because he's so strong, he is able to do exactly that, and now he's relatively free. He gets off his block and gets to the halfback for a huge loss of yards, and that's really one of the key problems going up against a great interior lineman like Williams. He has such great hands and feet that in 1-on-1 matchups, especially against a 1-on-1 matchup against the center, he's just going to eat you alive. Now, Williams is great, and and he's going to be a top 5 overall pick, probably a top 3 overall pick, and potentially even a first overall pick. But one of the problems I do have with him is as follows. Really a key way Clemson's offense was able to have so much success against Alabama was the way they took Williams out of the game. And if you take a look at this play, for example, all that's going to happen is it's going to be a pretty standard double team. Now, this is nothing fancy, and this is nothing out of the ordinary, and I think a lot of people would say, well, hey, even if you're drawing a double team, that's still a positive impact. But if you take a look at what happens, look at how far back he's going to get pushed from this double team. He's going to get pushed pretty far. He ends up being about a yard further backwards, and I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, yeah, he got double teamed. Most guys get beat when they get double teamed. That's kind of what happens. But my point is more so of, if I'm thinking about drafting a guy first overall, I want a guy who's going to be an elite player. I want a guy who makes plays happen even when he's getting double teamed. When you're taking a guy with a top 5 overall pick, you're expecting him to be an all-pro level player. That's the expectations. And I'm not saying Williams can't be. I think he absolutely can. But I am saying that I don't think he is right now. He definitely has some growing to do. And one of those ways also is awareness. I have noticed that at times, he does kind of get fooled by blocking concepts. Again, most college players do, but again, we're not talking about most college players. We're talking about a guy who is in the conversation of getting picked first overall. Like on this play, for example, what Ole Miss is going to do is have a run to the left side of the screen, and they're going to have their right guard and tight end move over to that left side of the screen. So that's where Williams is on this play, and take a look at what that left tackle is going to do. He's pretty much going to break to that right side of the screen, and it'll give him a good angle to block Williams. If you notice right now, he was completely fooled by this blocking concept. That left tackle is able to run in, and he's in good position to try to block Williams out of the way. Although it is worth mentioning that if Williams is quick enough, he should still be able to get past him. I mean, this is kind of similar to that play I showed earlier, where that guard was able to push Williams out of the way after getting beat, although this isn't really him getting beat. This is an intentional decision by that left tackle. He's basically banking on the fact that he can push Williams out of the way if he fools him, and honestly, I really do think that if Williams realized he was getting blocked by that left tackle before it happened, he would have been easily able to get past him, or at least draw a holding call, and probably get to the running back for a short gain, maybe even a loss of yards. However, he didn't realize that, and now he's going to get pushed pretty far to the right side of the screen. Even now, he's not out of the play yet. He's still going to try to break over to get into the halfback's area. However, the left tackle is still in that area, and is able to block him again. This led to a big run, and again, it's not fair to say that this was entirely because of Williams. I mean, this definitely wasn't all Williams' fault by any means. I mean, this is a totally understandable mistake to make. In fact, I wouldn't really call it a mistake. It was really him getting beat by a great play design and by a great block by that left tackle. But that being said, we grade these players on curves, and if you're going to be one of the best players in the league, you can't get beat on plays like that. Aaron Donald doesn't get beat on a play like that, and while it's unfair to compare anyone to Aaron Donald because he's the best player since Lawrence Taylor, even a Joe McCoy doesn't get beat on plays like that. But that's not to say that he never did, that's just to say that right now he doesn't. I want to be very clear on what my point is here. I do not think Williams is a bad player, and I do not think this is a reason to not draft Williams. I think this is something you're going to have to look at if you do draft him. He also absolutely is the kind of guy who can get moved from time to time. Like, if you take a look at this one, Williams is going to get double teamed by a center and left guard, and then the right guard is going to have a one-on-one matchup with the other Alabama interior lineman. From there, it's going to be a pretty standard run straight up the middle, but take a look at what's going to end up happening here. Williams really does get pushed very far to that top half of the screen. And it's also worth mentioning that the other interior lineman didn't do a great job reading this play, and he actually breaks to the bottom half of the screen, which is now going to create an even bigger window, but there is now a big window in that middle of the field. I mean, this is basically a giant gap at this point, and the fact of the matter is, I know Williams isn't entirely to blame, I know he got double teamed, but you have to still be able to come off a double team from time to time. And more importantly, if you are an interior lineman, you can't get consistently moved like that if you're going to be an elite player. This wasn't a back-breaking run because there were 3 linebackers in the area, but the fact of the matter is, more often than not, you'll take a 4-yard run when you are running the ball. On this next play, it's another example. If we take a look, once again, Williams is going to get double teamed by a center and left guard. Right when he gets hit with that double team, he's going to end up going down. And while he does bring that left guard with him, and he doesn't get too far to the top half of the screen, so you'd think it wouldn't be a terrible thing, the problem now is that center can then move up to block another linebacker. This double team actually completely took Williams out of the play. It basically turned into a one-on-one block that the Clemson Tigers won, and they had their center be able to move up and make another one-on-one block. So in my opinion, I think that's probably the biggest reason why you wouldn't want to draft Williams with the first overall pick, for example, is because he can get taken out of the game. But I also think it's worth mentioning, if you are going to make a serious effort to take him out of the game, it will leave other things open. You might have noticed on his past 2 plays that what ended up bringing the halfback down were the linebackers who were unblocked. And the reason why they were unblocked linebackers is because if you are going to double team Williams, that leaves someone else unblocked. That's the whole thing of a double team. That's why it's so important when you have a double team to try to get a guy to come off after his double team, because that's how you get those big runs. But that's the thing, while Williams can get taken out of the game in a straight up double team, if you have a double team where someone's then going to try to come off their block and block a linebacker after the fact, Williams can sometimes win those battles. Like on this play, for example, it is going to be a double team of Williams, and they're going to have their center, then after the double team, move up to block a linebacker. So that center has to be looking forward and looking at the linebacker along with looking at Williams. And what makes Williams so special is his footwork and is his quick jump off, as I mentioned before. So when the ball is snapped, he actually gets off so quickly that the center can't even really make the block on him. This was a design double team that Williams basically just turned into a straight up one-on-one block because he moved so quickly. Granted, if it was a straight up double team, he wouldn't have been able to do this. However, because it wasn't, and because the center did have to watch where the linebacker was as well, he couldn't be in two places at once, and Williams was able to get past him. Now, at this point, it is a straight up one-on-one block, as he got entirely past the center, and because he is so strong that if he's getting blocked one-on-one, he can definitely power forward and get in the way of the halfback. He completely wins his matchup after that point, and gets to the halfback for a big tackle. So, the reason why I'm bringing all this up isn't to show that I think Williams is bad. I think Williams is absolutely fantastic. I would like to see him not get moved as much as he does on double teams, but he still can find ways to get past double teams if they're not straight up double teams. I know he said he gets fooled from time to time, but the reality is he doesn't get fooled from left to right. He tends to just get fooled in terms of who's blocking him, and I'll show you what I mean with this play. What Clemson is going to do is they have a man in motion to that bottom half of the screen, but they're also going to fake as though it could be a pitch to the top half of the screen, and to help sell that fake, they're going to send their left guard over to that top half of the screen. But of course, it is just a fake, and what's actually going to happen is it's going to be a run straight up the middle, and there's going to be a center having a one-on-one matchup against Williams. Really, a center having a one-on-one matchup is almost never a good thing, but especially against a great player like Williams. But they wanted to help sell that it could be a fake to the top half of the screen by swinging that guard up in that direction. And the idea is pretty simple, right? I mean, the whole goal is to try to get Williams to move up in that direction. Try to get him to move up higher up. That's what the center is doing right now. And it works out okay. Williams does kind of creep up in that direction. However, he quickly realizes, oh wait, I actually need to get back further down because that's where my gap assignment is, and now I see Trevor Lawrence actually still has the ball. But what's really interesting to me is if you take a look at Williams' right arm here, I know it's kind of hard to tell because it is small, but his right arm is actually folded right now. He doesn't have his hand on that center at all, but he's still so strong that he's able to basically use his elbow to push off that center and get back into his gap assignment. He's athletically a freak of nature, and he's able to stop the run for absolutely no gain. And really, he's one of the best defensive tackle prospects that's come out in quite some time. I know I probably came off as being hard on him, but I think he's a great player, and I think he's definitely worthy of a top 3 pick. I think you make a very real argument that he should be the first overall pick, and I think more importantly, whichever team ends up getting him is going to be very happy for a very long time.